parable of the talent. Why did God punish the foolish servant? In chapters 24-25, Matthew records the unchanging holiness that characterized the Lord's heart. This warning contains final warnings, prophecies, and encouragements to his people. Jesus uses the parable of a master who briefs his servants on what is expected of them before setting out on a lengthy journey. Matthew 25:14-15, Amplified Bible. For it is just like a man who was about to take a journey, and he called his servants together and entrusted them with his possessions. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. And then he went on his journey. This was not strange in the ancient world, where servants were often given great responsibility, and this was often the safest and smartest thing a man could do with his money. But of course, the Greek talenton is simply a sum of money. It was generally regarded as equal to 6,000 denarii, France. If a talent were worth 6,000 denarii, then it would take a day labourer 20 years to earn so much. Carson. The talent which each man has suits his own state best, and it is only pride and insanity which lead him to desire and envy the graces and talents of another. 5 talents would be too much for some men. 1 talent would be too little. Clark. Matthew 25:16-18. The one who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made a profit and gained 5 more. Likewise, the one who had 2 made a profit and gained 2 more. But the one who had received the 1 went and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Went and traded implies direct action. The point is that the good servant felt the responsibility for their assignment and went to work without delay. Carson. What did the servant trade with their coin? We're not made aware of how they bartered with their abilities. It's possible that they loaned the money out with interest attached, or used it to buy things and then resold them for a higher price. The important thing is that they used what they already had and, as a result, gained more. Regarding the work done by the first 2 servants, we have many complimentary things to say. First and foremost, they completed their assignment on time. Number 2, they were steadfast in their efforts to complete the task. The third point is that they were successful in completing their work. Number 4, they were ready to give an account to their master. Matthew 25:19-23. Amplified Bible. Now after a long time the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. And the one who had received the 5 talents came and brought him 5 more, saying, Master, you have entrusted to me 5 talents. See, I have made a profit and gained 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in the joy of your master. Also the one who had 2 talents came forward saying, Master, you have entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have made profit and gained 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in the joy of your master. The lengthy wait would tempt the servants to believe that they would never have to account for their management, yet they most certainly would. We read, You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Most people do not realize that the reward was the same for both servants, even though one was given 5 talents and the other was given 2 talents. Each performed the same, according to the resources that they had received. We then read, Well done, good and faithful servant. This demonstrates that the master sought for goodness and faithfulness in the people who worked for him. Because of their excellent character and unwavering commitment, these servants were rewarded handsomely for their hard work. The master didn't care as much about the exact sum of money as he did about specific character attributes. "It is not, 'Well done, thou good and brilliant servant,' for perhaps the man never shone at all in the eye of those who appreciate glare and glitter. It is not, 'Well done, thou great and distinguished servant,' for it is possible that he was never known beyond his native village." Spurgeon. Better to be faithful in a cottage meeting, speaking of Christ crucified to 100 villagers, than to be unfaithful in a great building where thousands congregate. Enter into the joy of your Lord. This has the echo of heaven in it. The idea that a place of joy belongs to the master of these servants, and they are invited to join the master in that place. There is something heavenly about the fate that is in store for the two faithful servants. This is not the servant's portion, but the master's portion shared with his faithful servants. Not so much that we shall have joy of our own, as that we shall enter into the joy of our Lord. Spurgeon. Regarding the reward for the first two servants, we can say the following. First and foremost, their master complimented them on their performance. Number 2, they received a promise of future blessing. Number 3, they received glory, also known as the joy of your Lord. The third servant gives account. Matthew 25:24-25. The one who had received 1 talent also came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a harsh and demanding man, reaping the harvest where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid to lose the talent, and went and hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is your own." Their performance was very satisfactory as a whole. 8 talents contributed and 15 talents were received in return. But in the end, each person was evaluated based on their level of loyalty and effort. Remember, my hearer, that in the day of judgment thy account must be personal. God will not ask you what your church did. He will ask you what you did yourself. Spurgeon. The servant who merely buried his talent tried to excuse himself because of his master's great power. He believed his master to be in some sense omnipotent, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. The third servant believed that because the master was powerful, and in the servant's opinion, did not require his help, the master would be delighted that he did nothing, and that he would be able to say, "Look, there you have what is yours." It appeared as though he was unaware of how much he had upset his master. Regarding the task done by the third servant, we can say the following. The first problem is that he didn't think. Number 2, he didn't work. The third point is that he didn't even bother to attempt. He made excuses. Matthew 25:26-30, Amplified Bible. But his master answered him, "You wicked, lazy servant, you knew that I reap the harvest where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter seed. Then you ought to have put my money with the bankers, and at my return I would have received my money back with interest. So take the talent away from him, and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has, and values his blessings and gifts from God, and has used them wisely, more will be given, and he will be richly supplied so that he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, because he has ignored or disregarded his blessings and gifts from God, even what he does have will be taken away. And throw out the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place of grief and torment, there will be weeping over sorrow and pain, and grinding of teeth over distress and anger." The judgment of this third servant, here referred to as wicked and lazy servant, was strong. The master's dominion never excused the servant's idleness, and it condemned that laziness all the more. Those who do not work for the Lord do not pray, and do not evangelize because God is sovereign condemn themselves. They demonstrate they are like the wicked servant in the parable through their deeds, or lack thereof. They do not know their master's heart at all. The lord of the unprofitable servant tells him that the fault lay in his own sloth and wickedness, and his dread of his lord's security was but a mere frivolous pretense and unreasonable excuse. Paul. The accusation levelled against this servant who had just buried his talent was that he was wicked and lazy. We rarely consider idleness an actual sin that must be repented before the Lord. If laziness had been a calling or a spiritual gift, this man would have excelled at it. With what he had, this man could have done something. Even if it hadn't doubled, the master's money would have earned some interest. If we cannot trade directly and personally on our Lord's account, if we have not the skill nor the tact to manage a society or an enterprise for him, we may at least contribute to what others are doing and join our capital to theirs, so that by some means our master may have the interest to which he is entitled. While the Old Testament prohibits Israelites from charging interest against one another, interest on money loaned to Gentiles was permissible. We read a phrase that has become famous. For to everyone who has, more will be given, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. Some have things but hold them in such a way that it's as if they have nothing. These will find what they had taken away. To those who hold what they have received as faithful men and women, more will be given. John Trapp, an English commentator, notes, "See that ye receive not any graces from God in vain, neither envy those that have much. A proportion is expected." F.B. Mayer, an English evangelist, notes this, "We need not wait for the great future to obtain this multiplication or withdrawal of our talents. They are already waxing or waning in our hands." The third servant showed that he was not even somewhat deserving of the title of true servant to his Lord. It is only that he, and those who exhibit the same heart, were expelled from the presence of the Master for all time. There is a strong sense of torment in the destiny of the unfaithful and slothful servant, just as there was a sense of heaven in the destiny of the two honest servants. This parable's fundamental theme is crystal evident when viewed in the broader context of Matthew 25. Our level of preparedness for the return of Jesus is directly proportional to how well we manage the resources that he has entrusted to us. Some people have the misconception that being prepared for the second coming of Jesus is an extraordinarily ethereal and abstract matter. It isn't. It is simply a matter of going about our business for the Lord. In light of this parable, we must consider the following. What have we accomplished with the information that we have? Our time? Our money? Our abilities? Sins of omission, what we don't do, may be more detrimental in the long run than sins of commission, what we do. There are times when Christians talk as if God views expansion, production, and return on investment as a sinful thing. However, that preconceived view is challenged by this parable. Our knowledge, expertise, and ability, in addition to the resources that are made available to us at work, should all be put toward advancing God's kingdom. The gifts that God gives to individuals are seldom identical, nor are they always equal. If you use the gifts God has given you to the best of your ability, you will hear from him that you have done a good job. The two successful servants are awarded in separate sums, and however they are both lauded in the same way. The parable implies that we are to use whatever skill we have been given to the best of our ability for God's glory. The parable of the talents drives home to them the gravity of the obligation and the severe repercussions of failing to comprehend and act upon his instructions appropriately. In addition, there is a message for all of humanity. The Judgment Day is a great warning to us all. To learn more about this day, click here.